out with this. So you lock it like this, that way it goes opposite to your body. There's no need to have it. Have you ever wanted to be able to defend yourself from a violent attack without having to spend decades learning martial art? My name is Carl Schnackle, and this video is over 50 years in the making. Think you need to be young, strong, and in good shape to defend yourself? Bear with me for a second, and I'll prove just how wrong that belief is. I'm 72 years old as the time this video was shot. I'm about 60 pounds overweight, and I've destroyed both my knees while serving in the U.S. Army. So I walk with a permanent limp on both legs. I've got over 50 years of martial arts training in various art forms, over 15 years of experience teaching self-defense, even several years of experience as a bodyguard. I've developed a system that focuses on real-world self-defense that almost anyone can use to defend themselves. I did not focus on theoretical concepts. Instead, I provide simple, basic, easy-to-learn techniques that have been proven to work in high-stress situations. Unlike channels and systems led by young, world-class athletes who are still in their prime, my approach is built on the fact that you don't have to be an elite athlete to defend yourself. This channel is dedicated to helping real people survive real violence, where the only thing that matters is the outcome. Since violent attack is not a sport, much of what I teach would get you disqualified in a competitive setting, including the UFC. I pulled simple, effective techniques from many systems to ensure that they're easy to remember and simple to execute under pressure. If a technique is not simple, it will not work when you need it most. And although I've found a way to make the technique simpler and more effective, don't think for a minute that I've created a kinder, gentler form of self-defense. When you're violently attacked, you must deliver a brutal response. Your life may well depend on it. It's a fight that you simply cannot afford to lose. You'll learn brutal counterattacks to violent attacks. In other words, we train for situations that we pray never happen. Why do we need to learn counterattacks? For several reasons. First, I don't think that I need to remind anybody that crime is with us. If you get attacked, police will not be there to help you, because if they were there, it's unlikely that you'd be getting attacked at that time anyway. We need to assume responsibility for our own safety. The police have a tough job to do, and they simply cannot be everywhere at once. If you're attacked, you need to make certain that the attacker is the one who is sorry that it happened. Otherwise, you might be in a hospital, or maybe even the morgue. Second, the only thing you do is block the punch. The attacker will simply throw another and another. The law of averages dictates that sooner or later, some of those punches will get through. You need to make sure the attacker is simply not able to continue with the attack. I originally got here from frustration. I was frustrated with the progress my students were making. They may have been training at that level for weeks, but when they came to class, it was as if we were starting their training at that level from the beginning. They didn't remember anything, simply because the movements and the techniques were just not simple enough to remember easily. The movements were often complicated or required too many steps, or they contained too many details. The techniques may have been effective, but they were just not simple enough to easily learn and perform for average students. So I decided I needed to create a simple system that's based on just a few principles. It needed to be performed with instinctive, basic movements. It needed to be something that nearly everyone can do, not just elite athletes. So, nothing with more than a few steps. Nothing flashy, Hollywood style. It had to be effective. Quick pause. If you're finding this valuable, hit the like and subscribe buttons right now. Everything had to be done with simple and basic movements. I also wanted my students to learn to be able to adapt the movements to the situation, because one response will not work in all situations. The other reason I developed this system is because it takes years sometimes even decades of training in a traditional martial art to be able to defend yourself adequately. I've even known gifted martial artists who had won many tournaments who found out they could not defend themselves from a street attack. They were training to win against a fighter who was also trained in their art, not against a street fighter who wouldn't be reacting the same way a tournament fighter would be reacting or following the tournament rules. They were great tournament fighters, but they didn't know squat about self-defense. It needed to be simple, based on the instinctive way that humans react when under the stress of an attack. I wanted to teach aggressiveness when under attack. When attacked, many people will either shut down or retreat. If you're attacked, you cannot afford to be passive. Your level of aggression may well be what saves your life. Just think about the way many people will react when a nasty chihuahua comes after them. It's certainly not that tiny dog that scares them. What scares them is the level of aggression that dog has. We train with a never quit attitude because we cannot afford to quit when being attacked. Now, from the beginning, my approach has been to find one basic movement that will address as many variations of the attack as possible. Finding one specific defense for a specific attack is useless. If you were to learn 500 defenses against attack, you would probably go out and get attacked by scenario number 501. Rather than this type of system, I'm trying to create one movement that will work with as many variations as possible, using simple, basic, instinctive moves. This gives us a simpler yet more refined system that's much simpler to use under stress. But before we get there, if this is resonating, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. When the system is simpler, your reactions will be more decisive because you won't be confused about having too many options to choose from. Hicks' law proves that having too many choices reduces your reaction time, which is horrible in a self-defense situation. Reaction times need to be reduced. There are only two ways to accomplish this. One is to train more. The other is to simplify the system. I certainly don't have a problem with people training more and getting better at anything they want to do. Because the more you train, the better you become. But we lead busy lives, so this system was created for those who simply can't train more often. And even if you do train more, you would still be better off with a simpler system that is more effective. Even if you're able to train enough to overcome the hesitation from the having too many options issue, you still have another reason to simplify your system. Stress reduces your performance. Increasing your training time might reduce the impact of stress, but it will never make the impact of that stress go away. Since you will only need self-defense techniques when you are under stress, any effective self-defense system should be simplifying your physical movements and the decision making so that you can perform as well as possible while you're under that stress. I'll be uploading new lessons on a very regular basis. Of course, I'll have to start with basics, but that's to be expected. We all need to be able to walk before we can run. I promise you that I'll only have one lesson per video, except for when they should be taught together. Like I said repeatedly, it's got to be simple, or else it's not going to work when you're under the stress of a violent attack. Some videos might be longer than others, but they will only cover one technique or movement, with very few exceptions. Giving you a video covering 50 techniques and movements might impress you, but it would also make me a horrible teacher. My goal here is not to impress you. My goal here is to teach you to survive that violent attack. We all deserve to be able to walk with confidence. And this is important. While I've been a self-defense instructor for a long time, I'm new to YouTube. I promise that my equipment and video quality will improve as soon as I'm able to do that. But right now the information is more important than the quality of the camera and the microphone. One more thing that you need to know, just watching the video isn't going to turn you into an urban ninja. You need to put in the work, practice, and learn the movements and techniques. One more thing I have to say is that you should check with your doctor to make sure you're healthy enough to begin this or any other exercise program. And I'm not responsible for any accident or injury that you have or caused while practicing and performing the movements and techniques. I'll do my best to teach you how to practice this system safely. But like protecting yourself, the ultimate responsibility for practicing and performing this system safely is yours. I hated having to say that, but we all know why it was necessary. I hope I've earned a like and subscribe from you. But with that thought in mind, let's get to work. The next video is right here, where I'll give you a preview of everything you're going to learn in Level 1. I'll see you there.